Welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project with Lalo and Bob. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. Let's jump right into that weekly dose of things you can disagree with. Take it away, guys.
All right. Good morning and welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project, episode 45 or 6 or 4, something. We're in the middle of the 40s, man.
That's pretty, like, it doesn't seem like it's that much, but
I know.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it's not in the thousands. It's not even 100, but it's still, I'm kind of proud of that. 40 something. I don't stick with too many projects, and I did this time.
No, that's good.
How you doing, man?
Pretty good. Just like trying to, I don't know, I guess I'm trying to get in a routine that I could like stick to, because like when it comes to like school and like work and all that stuff,
Yeah.
I
know.
I'm just trying to get into like a routine that I could that's like easy for me to like follow and stick to, and just to like kind of just streamline everything I have to do.
Yeah. Are you a routine person? Are you one of those people? Yeah.
I'm not. That's the thing.
I'm not either. It's like I'm like I don't know. I'm jumping around from thing to thing, and like I'm learning guitar, and everybody's like, telling me you got to practice, you got to focus on one thing, and I'm like, I can't even focus on one kind of guitar. What are you fucking talking about? I have an acoustic, an electric, and a bass. So I'll play the bass for a few months or a few weeks even, and then acoustic for a few weeks, and then I'll jump over to the electric, and I don't know. It just seems I can't keep a job for more than 4 or 5 years. I can't. It's just not me, man.
You get bored easily.
Yeah. I and please don't take it wrong. And I master things pretty fast. And once I do that, like I had this job once as a sheet metal worker, and they told me that they couldn't afford to send me to school, and the school lasted 6 months, and they're going to give me 2 years to figure out this machine. So it's called a trumograph. I figured out the machine in 3 months, and a year later I was gone. I wouldn't even have lasted through the school. So once you figure something out, it gets boring. You got to go do something else, right?
Yeah. I mean, especially if it's something that you're not like super interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could be really good at it, but if it's not like giving you like that feeling of fulfillment, then
yeah, like high school dating.
Yeah, it's gonna get boring.
It's gonna get boring. Oh man, what's up this week with you know what? I read this thing yesterday about what's it called, Truth Social. It's opening tomorrow.
Was that Trump's thing?
Yeah, tomorrow's President's Day, and they were gonna open it 2 months ago, and then it didn't open, and then now it's the platform is supposed to open tomorrow. Are you gonna join?
I might, just to see what they're talking about over there. I mean, I have a feeling what it's gonna be like. It's like a big old like circle jerk, but
yeah. Well, it's gonna be nothing but bashing Democrats or bashing the left and QAnon, all kinds of shit. Why in the world would you do something like that? I'm not even going to join it to see what they're doing, man. That's, you know what? I'm wrong. I'll probably join just to troll them until I get kicked out.
until they censor you out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the new way of doing things. The new tolerance. We'll tolerate you till we can't tolerate you anymore.
It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude. I'm so tired.
Like, of what?
Yesterday I went on one of those hour and a half Well, it was 2 hours. 2 hours of weightlifting, and this morning I woke up and I couldn't fucking move.
Oh, like physically tired.
Yeah,
I
I'm
thought you were talking
mentally
about
I'm
like.
okay. Mentally I'm okay. I slept, but my body is like torn to pieces. I'm on this fucking kick of I'm trying to get in shape like when I was in my 20s, like one last time. I'm almost 57, and man, this sucks.
You don't. Yeah, I mean, when you as you get older, your body like obviously doesn't like recover as fast.
Yeah.
So you feel sore for longer, and
Yeah, yeah.
so I mean it's I guess it's somewhat normal.
Yeah, well, it has to do with recovery times have to do with testosterone, shit like that. And after 35, that shit starts to drop off, and then by the time you're my age, I don't know. I don't know. This whole getting old thing kind of fucking blows ass, dude. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think
seriously.
anybody really likes getting old.
Well, you know what? I like the mental part of it.
Like getting wiser and
Yeah, I guess you could
experiencing
call.
more in life.
Yeah, getting more experience and starting to figure yourself out and calm down and everything. You begin to work things out in your head. You begin to find out what's important, what's not important, and instead of getting upset over all the stupid shit I got upset over when I was in my 20s and 30s, now I'm just like, I don't even know what the fuck I was thinking. I wasn't, basically. So, and I'm not putting people down. I'm not one of those guys get older and start blaming the youth, because I miss my youth and I miss that fire and that edge and that anger and all that shit. But it's not bad to calm down, think things through, more philosophical, more experienced, wise, I guess. I don't know, but
Yeah.
the physical part of it is nuh-uh. My dad says getting old's not for pussies, and I know what he means now. He's 83. I can't imagine being that fucking old. And here it comes, man.
No, I think it's like to me it's I think my your mindset kind of changes a lot like
Yeah.
as you get older, cuz I think for like me who's younger, like getting older and like I don't know, just that thought is like very daunting to me,
Yeah.
cuz like I don't like you don't want to get older,
Right.
as a young person. And but I mean, I feel like you're in a really good like spot because you're still very like active and
Yeah.
you're like maximizing your potential, when it comes to
Yeah.
like to your physical body.
Yeah. I'm trying. I remember being I remember being like in the 80s, and I was in my 20s. And I think, man, when 2000 comes, I'm gonna be 35, and 35 wasn't shit. Now now I, now I think I'm gonna be 60, and it's like between 20 and 30 it felt like a long time. Between 30 and 40 got shorter. Between 40 and 50, now I'm thinking about what's going to happen between 60 and 70. And I'm thinking, fuck, dude, I'm only 13 years away from being 70. And what the fuck are you talking
How old are you
about?
right now?
57.
I mean, you for being 57, I feel like you're still pretty like you're like in
I'm,
good shape,
I'm pretty fly for an old guy. I know, but I'm pushing the envelope, and I never had to do that before. Never have. Now now it's like I'm tracking macros and nutrients and calories. I'm tracking workouts, and I'm doing everything I could. I feel like a professional fucking athlete trying to maximize my potential, and the potential is waning, and that's fucking scary, Holmes. That's scary shit. Like you said, nobody wants to get old, and then you start it really happens, and there's not shit you can do about it. I just don't want to be one of those dudes, in my 60s are cracking open my chest and, putting veins from my legs into my chest and all that shit. I don't want to fucking do that. That sounds awful.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, I mean, even for me too, like one of the reasons why it's so daunting is because you don't want to have like they always say, don't get old and then have like regrets in life,
Yeah.
Because I mean, as far as we know, this is like the only life we got. So
Yeah.
We should try to like do as much of the things that we actually like doing or want to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
So and I'm still like, but I think, like I said, as you get older, that mindset kind of changes a bit, to the point where it's not so like it's not so daunting. You kind of accept the reality of like, hey, I'm getting older.
Yeah. And the things that you think you want to do, you're like, I never really want to do that. So, but I don't know. I've had a decent life up till now, it's funny how you talk about, things that you recovered from. Well, those are the things that, like a recovered alcoholic and all the drugs I did and the sex and I've been a bartender, I've been a truck driver, I've been a factory worker, I've worked in mental health, I've worked, just this long fucking list of things that I've been. And like earlier when I said I have trouble keeping a job, well, that's worked to my favor in a lot of ways because now I can fix anything. I've been a mechanic. I've been a tow truck driver. I've been, whatever I could find that was interesting at the time, but it added to my arsenal of things that I can do. And that's a cool thing to have. But here's the deal. No matter what you're taking it with you, brother. That's the thing.
Yeah, no matter what you know or what you have.
Yeah, no matter what you've experienced, you're taking it with you. You're not going to be able to pass it along. And I like to tell people, I was like, if you're unhappy, man, fucking change it because it from 20 to 50 is like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, my kids were little and I was living in West Virginia and working in a factory, and then all of a sudden I'm sitting here doing a podcast in Bakersfield, California. You're like, wait a minute, what happened?
Yeah. The way I also try to like look at my, I don't know, time here, I guess, is like right now, for example, I'm like 27,
Mm-hmm.
and I think about all the like shit and like stuff I've done in my 27 years of life.
Yeah.
And I mean, most of it was like my adolescence, and like childhood and stuff. So I mean, I have like a faint memory of some of that. Um, but I mean, 27, I feel like I did a lot like of living, I guess, in those 27 years. So like, let's say I double that, and that's what, 54.
Yeah.
So I feel like from now to 54, that's like another 27 years of like all the stuff that I've done. So I feel like putting in that perspective, it seems like a long time because I
Okay.
think I've done a lot in 27 years. So, 54 is not like super like old,
Right. Right.
So you feel like, oh, you can still do like a lot because you still have another 27 years, hopefully. And it's like, it kind of makes it seem like you have more time.
Yeah. Isn't that okay? I remember I still do think like that as like, well, I'm 54 and then I've done a lot and then all the kids are going to be grown and gone. Ivory will be gone. So I've got this time in my life that's going to look kind of like the first 20 years, 27 years of my life, but in reverse. Instead of being a child and then grow into adulthood, I'm going to go from adulthood back into old age. So, it's like flipping the thing around. But what's fucking terrifying, and I do mean in ways that I can't, describe it. You can write fucking dark poetry about it or shit like that. What's hard to fathom is, you're thinking, well, 27, and I got 27 more years, and then I'm thinking I only have 27 more years. You're thinking I have the next. I'm thinking this is it. This is the winding down of life, and I don't know, man. I don't think that there's any like overarching meaning to this life. I think it's kind of accidental. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no purpose, and ethics and morals and all the philosophies about living. We just made that shit up. So when you start getting older, you start to look and think, okay, what's real here? What do I really need in order to maximize what I have left? And why the fuck didn't I maximize what I had? And that's the thing I try to tell people, dude, like I said before, if you're unhappy, fucking figure it out, because it's so fast. If you're not doing what you think you need to do in order to make yourself happy, you better fucking change, because it's over before you fucking know it. And some dude in his 80s will tell you the same thing. It goes so fucking fast. If you're not happy, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people also have different expectations of what they want their life to be.
Yeah.
Like you're very I think you said you're like an adrenaline junkie. So you like to skydive and rock climb and stuff. And those
absolutely.
are great. Those are super cool things,
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, if you've never if those aren't things that interest you, or that, you want to cross off some sort of bucket list when you're older, and you're like, oh, I never went skydiving, but I never really wanted to go skydiving, then it's okay with you,
Yeah.
If your goal in life is to hey, I want to, just have a decent paying job, settle down, and raise my kids, and just kind of live on cruise control, and that's perfectly fine, And if your goals are hey, I want to accumulate as much wealth as I can, or do this and do all these things, that's also fine. We have different we all have different things we value in life and what we want to do with our lives.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's different ways to kind of achieve that feeling of okay, I have no regrets, I just wanted to raise a family and have a few kids, and put them in a position to succeed.
Yeah.
And I did that. So I'm content and I'm good.
That's a good way. That's a good way of looking at it. I think that here's how I would my advice to you, to anybody your age. If you feel restless, that's your inner core being telling you that you're missing something. I felt restless my entire life, and like you said about adrenaline with snowboarding and skydiving and rock climbing, those are the only times in my life that restlessness goes away, and that's why I do it. Because getting a new job doesn't curtail that I'm missing something here, because I don't look at work as something that's to fulfill my life. I look at my work as getting the money to fulfill my life outside of work. It's that. So my 8 hours or 9 that you spend at work, I just want them to be calm, and maybe I'll learn something, and I'll be friendly and have a good atmosphere at work. So when you don't have a good atmosphere at work, when I don't have it personally, that's when I got to go. But if you were feeling restless in your life, if you're constantly like me, looking at the sky and thinking something's missing, and that may sound like mental illness, but I feel like to me, it's just myself telling me, hey man, live your fucking life. Go do something that's fulfilling. Go do something that will end this feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very good a very good way of like being able to tell like if that's like really what you want to be doing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you feel restless during it, um, then it might be time to like, kind of like reconsider your options or like your choices, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think it also like there's also this very like heavy like I think there's a lot of pressure when it comes to like people figuring out what they want to do, and like nowadays like by 18, by the time you like get out of high school, like you're supposed to know like, oh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Fuck, dude, I'm 50, almost 57. I don't know what the fuck I want to do yet.
Yeah, so I don't think people should like they shouldn't hold themselves to those standards, because then they're like 24 and they're still unsure, and by that time they like think they're like a failure, you know.
Yeah.
Especially when they look at like their peers around them, like they have kids or like they have a job or you know whatever.
Yeah, that is the thing with your generation, isn't it? That's an occurrence.
Yeah,
Where
there's a lot of
your late
like
20s,
comparison.
you feel like, oh my god, I don't have like Jim and Sandy have 2 kids in a house, and I'm fucking working behind a counter at the store here. You know?
Yeah, like even for me, like I only recently kind of like figured out like what path I want to go down
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to like career, and like, okay, so this is the career that I want, and then this is how I obtain that, you know.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm gonna have to go to school, I have to get my MSW, like, you know, this and that. And you know, I'm already like 27. So I mean, there's like people that I graduate high school with that like they, you know, they finished college, they got a job, like they're raising a family. So
Yeah.
I, in my mind, I know like by the time I achieve those things, I'll probably be like in my early 30s. Um, and for a lot of people, like that would be like terrifying, you know,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, like you're already like super late and like all these things.
Yeah.
But
But here's the thing, dude. Kudos to you, because you took that time to figure it out. So here's you. Let's say you're 32. You got your MSW. You're a couple years into your career. Then maybe you're going to get married and you're going to have kids, and then you're 35 by the time you have kids. You look at people who got 13-year-old kids at 35. They've missed every fucking thing that you did. You're going to concerts now. You're doing, you're
yeah,
traveling around. You're fucking getting drunk at parties. You're fucking around having a good time. And those people are going to have this sense of they missed out. And you're not. You're just going to be like, no, man, I fucked around. I had a good time in my 20s. And then I decided I didn't start college till I was 27, 28. And then I never finished until I was 50, because I kept dropping out, because like my mindset for things is I would go so far into a degree and be like, well, fuck that, man. I don't want to do this. And I would change majors, and I changed majors. I think I've talked about it. I started English, went to history, went to psychology, dropped out, came back in psychology, switched to philosophy, dropped out, came back in behavioral science, and finished with behavioral science and history. But here's the thing: if you look at my college transcripts, there's almost enough on there for 3 degrees. So, so I got a really good education, man.
yeah, and I mean, like I said, a lot of people tend to like compare themselves, you know, to other people around them,
Yeah,
and
you shouldn't do that.
also, yeah, also what you have to realize is like, since like we don't know like their actual like personal lives, like a lot of people, you know, they'll spend all this time like early on, like, hey, like, you know, finishing high school and college and, you know, getting a job, and then like 3 years into their job, they're like, I fucking hate this,
Yeah,
you know. And then like those people feel almost stuck because, they spend all this time and money, and it's like, well, I can't start all over, so I'm just gonna have to like tough it out. And that's the part that a lot of people don't see, because I feel like that happens a lot.
Yeah, it does. It happens quite a lot, and I think that's why there's such an unrest in our culture, is
Yeah,
everybody's
'cause-
not doing what they wanted to do, or they've settled. And there's another fucking piece of wisdom from an old guy: never settle, Lalo. Fuck that. Don't do that, man. You will be a miserable motherfucker within months if you settle for a house or a car. I'm sure you've done something. I'm sure you went out to buy a certain thing. They didn't have it, so you settled on something else. And then you looked at that thing like, fuck this. I don't want that. I wanted the other one. I should have waited.
yeah.
Yeah, that happens with marriages. That happens with
Especially with
jobs.
marriages.
Yeah, yeah. You jump right into shit, and you're like, well, I'll
There's a reason half of them don't work out.
yeah, exactly. Well, 3/4 of mine didn't work out.
You're above you're in the next standard deviation.
Oh, are we taking statistics? Oh man, you're doing a good thing, man. You're doing a good thing. I'm my plans now are because because I never stayed with a job. Certain things happen. There's certain consequences to that, and they're very, very devastating. Like I don't have any, retirement. I don't have a retirement account. So what I'm having to do now, and I don't mind. I'm going to come back to the county, and I'm going to go back to school like you. I'm going to come to LMFT. So that allow me to work until I'm 65, 66, 67, whatever they make retirement age when I'm get there. And then
I mean, even then, like,
I could just work
that's
part time.
yeah. I was gonna say you could still like do stuff after that.
Yeah, and that makes me feel like I'm doing something, because being off work uh, drives me crazy. It drives me into projects and just all kinds of stuff. I can't sit still, and I have to feel useful, I guess is a word, because I can paint and do art and draw and all that stuff. In the back of my head, I'm thinking, you need to do something useful. This isn't useful. And even though it is, but there's that psychology of being a human being psychology of being a human being in a capitalistic system. And that's where your mindset comes from of, oh man, I got to make a decision now. You don't. You can work behind a counter for 5-6 years. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that also has to do with um, like that image that you project. Like you
Yeah.
want to come off as like a successful person that has their shit figured out. At 21,
Yeah.
and it's like that's just not. I would say for most people, that's not very like realistic or even achievable for a lot of people.
Yeah. I lived a dual life at 21. I was, dad and partier at the same time. And yeah, that didn't work out too well. That's fine. It's fine. No regrets, right?
Yeah, because I mean, I think that would be like the worst thing. Like, you do all these things because it's what you think you should do, and it's the things that people around you expect you to do. But then when you're like actually doing them, or when you get done with them, you realize like, well, it's not really what I wanted to do.
Right.
And then you're kind of, that's when you get those like deep like regrets, especially when you're like older and you get later in life. You're like, whoa. And I think that's probably like one of the worst feelings you can have, because you're like, that's one thing you can't really like take back, the time.
Yeah.
Like once it's done, it's done. And it's like, I can't imagine being like 65 and it's like, you look back at your life and it's like, I didn't want to do most of the things that I did. I just thought I had to, or I just thought, or like there was certain pressures put on me to do those things.
Yeah.
And now I'm here 65, like, you know, alone or whatever. And it's like, I don't know, to me, that would just be like terrifying.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of angry old people are just sad. They're not really angry. They're sad because they missed out. They feel like they missed out, or life wasn't fair, or and there's a thing right there that when you get a hold of it, and you can hear it all the time. You can hear Matthew McConaughey sitting on the stool in front of the classroom saying, life isn't fair. And everybody's like, yeah, that's true. But when you really get a hold of that philosophical concept of there isn't a fair system here, it's, you can take your kid to the zoo and get sideswiped and end up on a completely different path because somebody made a decision that didn't even affect you. You just happened to be in the area when it fucked up. So life isn't fair. And when you get a hold of that, if you could get a hold of it when you're your age and think, okay, all the bad things that are happening or going to happen or happen to me, it has nothing to do with fair. It's just I gotta stand up, brush myself off, and get going back to work. But that when you sit and at age 70, 75, and you look back and think life wasn't fair, you're doomed. You're doomed to be angry and sad and have all kinds of negative emotions about it. So maybe when that our conversation today is about just don't don't blame yourself, don't blame others, just get to work, just do the work that you want to do the thing
Yeah.
that you want to do.
Yeah. And I always tell people, like, just like if you're going to stress out and like worry about things, make sure those things are all stuff that you can control,
Yeah.
because when you start to worrying and stress about things that are out of your control and out of your hands, like that doesn't do anything for you.
Yeah, don't you think there's things in the gray area there too, though?
Yeah.
Like the motivational people will tell you, don't, separate everything into, like you just said, things I can control and things I can't control. Well, when I'm bored, when I'm broke and rent's due tomorrow, that's kind of in my control if I can figure it out, but kind of out of my control if I can't.
Yeah.
So worry is, God, worry, stress, anxiety, guilt. There's all kinds of things that are happening to people constantly. Like the person that wants to go, do something what everyone else would consider frivolous. I want to go be a poet. Okay, and you sit down and you start writing poetry, and then you quit your job because you got some poetry published and you want to do it full time. You want to be an artist, and people. Then you got the guilt of, am I doing the right thing for my family? Or am I doing the right thing for myself? And people are down on you. And I think we should, if that's where capitalism is, it just sucks because it sucks the life out of creative people if they can't monetize their creativity.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where a lot of people they almost use it as a way to like say the opposite thing, because they'll say like, well, we have all these great like inventions and like creative things in capitalism out of like necessity,
Yeah.
and I don't think it should be that way. Like we shouldn't be creating these things because you're like, about to become homeless or something. Like true, like creativity at its like full potential, it's when you can like free think and like not have to worry about any like external things.
Yeah.
That's where like true creativity comes from, not from like, hey, I gotta fucking finish this painting by this week because I gotta sell it and I
Yeah.
gotta like make rent.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of books were written on Well, let's say classics. A lot of books right now are written on deadlines because its published date is this. You have to finish it by then.
Yeah.
But a lot of the classics, I don't think Herman Melville was like being leaned on while he was writing Moby Dick because his rent was due.
Yeah. And I mean, that applies in like a lot of different like mediums, like, hey, like a lot of people, they have hobbies. They might be like a woodworker, or like they like to create things, and for a lot of people, like they'll do that like on their free time, like after work or like on the weekends. And I think it's very liberating when it's like truly a hobby. You're not using it as a like almost like a second income,
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I work full time 40 hours a week, but that's not enough, so I have to like make like wood tables on the side.
I have to make wood tables on the
Yeah,
side.
and I mean,
Arts
it's
and
not a bad
crafts.
thing to like do things like that and like, sell them and, trying to perfect your craft. But it shouldn't be like I said, out of necessity.
Yeah. Guitar. I will never make a dollar playing the guitar, but I enjoy it. It's just something I do. So I write poetry. I'm never going to make any money writing poetry, and it's just something I do. And I think you're right that we should. Those are things we love that fulfill us in ways that our jobs and our relationships and our children and all the things that we have, these things that place burdens on us. Poetry places no burden on me. Guitar places no burden on me. It's just something that I sit down, pick up, and play for as long as I want. And I'm not here to, I got to perfect this lick here. I'm not like that at all. So I just play because I love it. And I think everybody should have something like that.
Yeah, and I
That's why
mean,
men have penises.
I mean,
We play
we
with them
get
because we love them.
and then also people get like, we're able to get fulfillment out of like a lot of different like avenues,
Yeah.
like you said, and it could be like the same person getting like finding like that fulfillment in life through different avenues. You could be like, hey, I'm gonna go spend time with like my kids at the park,
Yeah.
and like being at the park could like be super rewarding to you, and like it's one of those things where you like look back at and it's like, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
But you could also be that same person and like spend an afternoon, like you said, like in your garage with like your guitar, just trying to like perfect the song that you've been trying to play.
Yeah.
And like once you finally get it, it's like, ecstasy.
It is. It is. I remember the first lick I ever learned was "Smoke on the Water" by Deep Purple, and I was like, "I got it!" It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. And
And it's like you said, no one's ever gonna like be there to see you get in. No one's ever gonna like pay you all this money, but it's
exactly,
still like probably one of the most rewarding things.
exactly. Did it because I wanted to, and figured it out on my own, and that's cool. And like I said, when my kids were young, my daughter, my daughter still tells all of her, still tells the stories of when she was young, and I would just be walking the room, and I'd say, "Get packed, we're leaving." And the only question they would have is how many days, and I would just tell them, and we would just go. And that's when we would just get in a bug. I had a '72 Volkswagen and just shoot over the hill and spend a couple days in LA or over on the coast. Those are the best, some of the best times of my life. There's no pressure on me at that point. I'm just spending time with my kids.
Yeah, and it's a. I mean, I'm not like, I don't have any kids yet, at least, but it's one of those things that I think when you're a young person, especially if you're like in a relationship, you're always like, everyone's always asking you like, oh, when are you gonna have kids? Like, when are you guys getting married? And
Yeah.
I've kind of learned to like kind of just like laugh it and like shrug it off,
Is your
because at the end,
girlfriend also laughing and shrugging it off?
yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, it's that's a decision between like you and the other person, and I think like it might not seem like harmful, but I do think like comments like that, especially depending on like the situation and like the person or the people, can be very harmful.
Yeah.
It's like someone's like, "Oh, when are you guys gonna have kids? Like, you've been together for so and so years," and it's like, well, actually, they've been trying to have kids for like the past 2 years, so, and now they're actually worried that they
Oh,
might have like infertility issues, but
yeah,
they're not
that,
gonna tell you that, So it's like,
and not till they
it's
end the friendship anyway.
yeah, or it's like, oh, actually, we were pregnant like last month or like last year, but we had a miscarriage. Like those aren't things people are just gonna like rebuttal with.
Yeah. Well, I
So
would. Yeah, that would be me.
most people at least.
Well, there's this thing, man, where you internalize things like that, and that creates. And you know what? I didn't learn. It's one of those things. Here is another thing that age brings you is internalizing things that other people say without actually telling them is a real good way to create animosity. And you, as a psychology student, you know that. So if you have the courage now, when someone's like, "Well, when are you guys going to have kids?" It's like, "Well, we've been trying to have kids for 2 years, and that stops that fucking conversation from ever happening again." Instead
Yeah.
of it happened this week, and then next month you get with them and you're having dinner, and they're like, "When are you guys going to have kids?" They're not going to do that again if you just straight up tell them, "We don't know if we can."
That's true.
Yeah. So take that advice and run with that one, Lalo, because that'll stop a whole lot of bullshit in your life. You don't have to be mean about it. You don't have to be like, "Well, we're trying, you fucking asshole. What do you want?"
Yeah. But I could also understand why that might be like hard for a lot of people to kind of
Yeah.
like put out there, especially like a topic like that.
Well,
It's
yeah,
very like
because
deeply personal.
yeah, it's deeply personal, but it's hurting your feelings is what it's happening. And you can be tactful about it. You can figure out how, because those questions, you're right, they're very damaging,
And the thing is, they
especially when
don't
you
seem
just,
damaging a lot of the times, They seem very
yeah,
like harmless and playful and
yeah, the
fine.
person asking is not in the situation. They're just like, "Hey, when are y'all going to get married? And when are you going to have kids? And are you going to buy a house?" And there could be all kinds of obstacles in the way of those are huge. Marriage, buying a $400,000 house, having kids, all those things shoot you into different directions in life. And if you're having trouble having kids or having trouble with your fucking credit score, all kinds of things, those questions are very damaging. And you can just shut people down. You can shut them down nicely, but instead of the conversation going on and on and on, then later on, instead of ruining that friendship, that person is just quiet about that. And then later on, you could say, "Hey, guess what happened? My wife's pregnant." And then that's a celebration.
Yeah. Instead of like oh, finally.
Exactly. Exactly. You don't know, that, "Hey, my wife got pregnant." Well, it's about fucking time. And you want to tell, you listen to you, son of a bitch. We just spent $30,000 at a fertility clinic. What do you fucking mean it's about time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So be honest with people. I've learned that. I, Dude, seriously, I have to say this. I learned to be honest in my relationships with people, as my wife, my kids, and it has made my life a lot better. And it's been uncomfortable at times, for sure. Like you said, it's really hard to say things that are personal. But instead of living with all that internalized anger or guilt or, you know, holding something against somebody, it's real fucking easy just to sit down and say, "Hey, let me talk to you about this thing that's happening. You're doing this, and this is what it's creating in my life. And I don't want to end the relationship, but I want that part of you to stop doing that to me." And then there's an explanation, there's an apology, or there's a working out, and then that bond grows closer. If you
Yeah.
tell because the animosity that you hold towards your significant other because of something that they're doing or saying is not allowing you to bond to them. So if you just sit down, you're fucking honest and say, this is the feelings that I'm having. This is what's happening. And well, fuck, man, you know all this. You're gonna be a social worker, so you know about familial bonds and being honest with each other. And yeah, you're absolutely right, though. It's hard as fuck to sit down and tell your wife and pour out your fucking heart to this person. But you know what? I found out all the things that I fear to talk about with my wife. When I pull them up, lay them on the table calmly, we discuss them, she's very understanding. She's like, I had no idea. Instead of getting angry, she's like, I had no idea. So that's some good advice for people out there that are holding things against your husband or your wife or your girlfriend or your friends or your boss. Sit down very calmly, think it through. Don't be angry when you're delivering your hurting my feelings message. Be very calm about it and say, this is what's happening, and I'd like to move past it so we can have a better relationship in the future.
Yeah, no, I mean, even now, like that's one of the things that one of my classes like deals with is that like interpersonal communication,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the times, one of the most important factors is how you approach like a situation and like the words you use and the tone you use,
Yeah.
that could heavily decide like not only like the outcome of the conversation, but like how the other person reacts to what you're telling them.
Yeah.
Like if you like come at someone, you're like, hey, like fuck you, like we've been trying, blah blah blah. Like they might get like defensive,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh well, I didn't mean it that way, and then you like argument breaks out. But then if you kind of like you said, like let them down softly, like, hey, actually we've been kind of trying, like is it okay if you like don't bring it up, because it makes me, or like it makes my partner like uncomfortable,
right?
They'll be like,
we've
totally
been trying.
Yeah, I can't, yeah, I can't imagine anybody else, like anybody hearing that would be like anything but like respectful about it,
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to
especially
bring those
because maybe
things
they
up.
might even gone through like a similar situation, so,
Or that at least, at the very least, they know someone who's gone through it.
right.
So I think don't take these things personally either, Lalo. It's not even though you feel like, and we'll use the same example, even though you feel like, your friends coming to you and attacking you, they're not. Because say you go to your girlfriend and you say, we need to talk, and you sit down and you say, whenever you say this or whenever you do this, this is how I'm interpreting it. And even though, and you can say, you be completely honest, you can say, even though I know you're not meaning it that way, psychologically, I'm still interpreting it that way. And I need to talk about it. And those are things that's being honest with yourself, which, when people piss you off, sometimes you're like, they didn't mean it that way, but God damn it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you didn't mean it this way, but this is how I felt about it at the time. And we need to sit down and talk these things through. And, this current relationship that I'm in has gotten a lot better because over the last, I'm going to say 2 years, we've started to, instead of internalizing things, we just, and call it on right then. Or if it makes you mad, come back to it in a few hours or a few days. But people tend to let things build up and let things build up and let things build up. And then, you remember 10 months ago, you motherfucker? It's like, what?
Yeah.
No, I don't remember that.
But they do.
But they do, because it happened. You hurt their feelings. They stewed in it for 10 months, and then you triggered them again. And they've just been psychologically looking for that trigger, not searching out cognitively, but in their mind, they're waiting for the time to bring that up, and they're going to bring it up in an angry way. Well, if you just flip the switch on that and say, you know what, that really fucked with me. I need to talk. What did you mean by that? Why did you do that? What did you mean when you said this? And those ways that communication works. And the fucking stupid part is, Lalo, I've been taking those classes for 30 years, and I always applied it to other people, but not to myself.
Yeah, I think that's always the hardest. It's always like they say, it's always hard to take your own advice. So
Yeah.
I think that's just human like behavior, like natural human behavior. It's one of those things that it's very hard to like do, but I mean it is possible.
Okay, but why? Riddle me this. You take your first psychology class, and I'm sure you remember it, your first psychology class, and it's easy to diagnose yourself as a sociopath. Why isn't it easy to take your first communications class and go, oh, well, that's me. I need to stop doing that?
Because I think one of those is implying that you're in the wrong.
Yeah.
And people don't like to be in the wrong.
Yikes. Smart, man. Nice. You just schooled me right there. Thanks.
But I mean, I think that's when you really like turn a page, when you're able to like kind of like take a step back and be like, hold on, like I'm doing this, or like I'm in the wrong. Let me try to like change my attitude or change my mindset, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's when you get like the real like progress and change like going.
Wow, dude, you're pretty smart for 27. Can you apply that shit to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I do it all the time, like especially now, like in these classes that I'm taking. Because I mean, for the most part, like my college career, I guess, it's been a lot of like filler, like fucking geology classes and like, you know,
You
like
you bring up that geology class a lot for bullshit classes. Whenever you're talking about one of those bullshit class like fucking geology, you always bring that one up.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like that's a very obvious bullshit class. Unless you're gonna be a geologist, then it's like your bread and butter. But for me, I'm good on it. But
well, you know, like, that geologist is like that fucking psychology class I had to take. Like that's gonna help,
and that's fine because I mean, that's not what they're studying. So I would agree with them. But like now my classes are more like specialized, you know?
Yeah.
Or more focused on actual like psychology and stuff.
More on your degree than
yeah. So I'm more like I mean, naturally I'm more like interested in them and I pay more attention and I like I like doing the readings and like all these things. So I'm actually like what I found myself doing or happening a lot of the times is that I'll read something like a topic or like a term in the book and it's like, oh, I knew that, but now I know like there's like a name for it, you know?
Yeah.
So now you can like explain it to people if you need to. So it's like I've always talked about like, oh, it's very important, like not only what you say, but how you say it, you know?
Right.
I always tell people that. And now I learned like, oh, that's called like message encoding and decoding.
Right.
Like decoding is how you perceive things, like how you perceive what other people say. And encoding is what you put out, you know, like the word you choose. So now like you have an avenue to not only understand it for yourself even better, but if you need to like explain it to other people. And I found myself like doing that a lot, especially in my communications class. Like kind of understanding like, hey, like there's a term for this and, you know, this is what it does. And I don't know. I just feel like it's been very like helpful.
It is, man. It is. And the more education you get, the better it gets. If you are if you're working towards enlightenment, if you're working toward, look, man, if you're working towards a degree, you're not gonna memorize anything. If you're working for money, you're not going to memorize anything. You're going to memorize what you need to memorize and what you need to say. But if you truly are entering into what we do for a living, it really doesn't. The money's important for us to live, but our jobs are super important because we're dealing with people and trying to make people have a better life. So if you're really truly going to do that, you start to learn the philosophy of it and the psychology of it and all the angles that people come at you, and you start to break people down into categories and, okay, you have this problem, we'll do this with it. So it's very, I like the thought of becoming a therapist because I can sit down and do what we just did for an hour, is talk through things and talk about things and try to help people have a better life. And I think a common thread that you and I have had for the last 2 years, we've been doing this 43 episodes, however long that's been, a common thread is politics. But within that politics, there's always been this philosophy and this psychology of it. And what you said earlier hit the nail right on the head, dude. People don't want to change because it affects them in way, they don't want to say they're wrong.
Yeah, it affects their perception, like, of themselves.
And nobody wants to be wrong. But here's the thing. If you can learn how to be wrong, mistaken, your life's going to be so much fucking better. Because you know what you know, and other people know what they know, and there's so much out there to know that you could quite possibly be thoroughly wrong.
I would say, you know what you know, and you don't what you don't.
Right. And I have all this information and I've come to this conclusion, and somebody comes in and says, I have a bit more information on that subject and I think it's going to change the way you think. You can do one of two things. You can reject that and say, no, this is what I know. This is from my experience. But if you go back and tell that person, okay, your experience from this point backwards is what you've learned, and that's other people's input. Somebody may have told you that. Somebody may have done something that you learned from. So here at this point where you think you've made up your mind and you're solid with that ideal, you shouldn't be. You should always be open to every fucking thing, because things change so rapidly now. You might be fucking wrong. And what if that thing could save your life? Or what if that thing could open up other avenues for you when you're on this road towards this conservative QAnon Trumpism, or the other direction where you're on this road to this liberal, left wing theology, and then you're doing all this shit, and somebody comes along and says, "Hey, wait, man, you need to consider this." What if you did, and you considered it, and you got off that road, and you open up your life even more, and suddenly the world's a different place. It's a better place, or maybe worse. But you think that we need to understand that at any point in time, any decision we've made about anything, we could be wrong?
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of times we are wrong. Like we're wrong more than we realize.
I think we're wrong more than we're right.
Yeah, so it's like you said, it's about being able to recognize it and to kind of adapt ourselves based on actually being able to recognize it.
Yeah.
And accepting it and saying being wrong isn't necessarily a bad thing, because a lot of times you learn from it,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes it so the next time you can make a better choice or a better decision, and maybe you won't be wrong next time.
Yeah. I have a friend in my life, told, real hardcore super Christian, and wouldn't ever consider any other religion, because in the Bible, it says don't. She had interpreted the Bible as don't entertain other religions. They're false. So I've talked to her for a long time about Buddhism not being a religion. And here recently, she came across this idea of me talking to her over a period of time. She said, when Jesus was born, 3 wise men came to him, and she goes, it just dawned on me that they weren't Christians. Right. That's right. And that was an epiphany that she had. And that opened up this avenue of Buddhism's 500 years older than Christianity. It's quite possible that Jesus was talking about Buddhism when he was talking about the Bible, because the threads of Buddhism and Christianity are fucking huge. So she changed. Instead of going from this narrow-minded thing, she's now opened up her possibilities to say, oh, other people and other religions may not be wrong. It's just what they believe. And that's what we have to do. If it takes us years, we should always, if we believe something all of our fucking life, it can throw us off when we find out we're wrong, but it can also be very liberating.
Yeah.
At the same time.
It all depends on your, your attitude towards it,
Yeah. Yeah. We need to change. We need to be open to change. That's all.
Yeah. It's like they say, the only constant thing in life is change. So,
well, maybe we need to accept Donald Trump as the next president, dude. What do you think?
I don't know about that change. I'm pretty sure he won't even run. He's just making it. I found something out the other day that I think I told you that his website takes donations.
Yeah.
So people are donating because they're because a lot of people think he's gonna run. A lot of his base. So they're donating to his campaign, but as long as he doesn't actually announce it, he's not bound by the certain campaign donation limits and rules. Because he hasn't announced it, he just has a donation on his page,
Right.
But the moment he announces, oh yeah, I'm running, then it becomes campaign donations, and there's certain legal limitations to those. So I think he's just conning people out of their money, his base. He's not even gonna run. He's just gonna take that money, and they were donated to him, so it's not like they could get it back.
I don't want him to be president anyway. I want DeSantis to be president, or maybe Don Jr.
No, I don't think he'll run, but I can almost guarantee you whoever does run will try to sound as much like him as possible. So.
Yeah, he'll run on that platform. They will, of course.
There probably won't be much of a difference.
But will they have the fucking nutsack to do what he did when they were president? Or are they just a mouthpiece? That's the thing.
No, yeah, they're just a mouthpiece. They're Trump in mouth only,
Yeah, but
not in action.
The thing is, when he first became president, he wasn't doing the things. It took him a while to realize that he could do it. He wasn't pulling out of any accords or doing anything or starting any trade wars. In the first year of that presidency, he was just more like, really? I can do this?
I won?
I did? Okay, cool. Let's pull out of that Paris thing. Okay, Mr. President. Wait, what? Yeah, let's do that. Fuck yeah. And he's telling Melania at night, can you believe that they let me do that? All right, man. Good talk. Good podcast.
Yeah. It usually is, so.
Yeah, it is. I always come into it open-minded. Occasionally I've come in with some ideas of things I want to talk about. And sometimes I come in with ideas of things I want to talk about for 4 weeks in a row.
It's the same thing. You can never get that transition or that segue in.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about this. I think that's the cool thing about you and I. We sit down and just talk, and that's, I don't know, a lot of good things natural. Come out of that. Yeah, a lot of good things come out of that. This week, listen, everybody, you're going to get old. Seriously. Yeah, there's no, or you're going to die young. I mean, that's your choices. You're going to get older, you're going to die, because Jeff
I
Bezos
don't know
hasn't
about
figured it out.
choiceless.
Yeah, they're not
What's your
choices, are they?
possibilities?
You're, Avenue A, you're going to get old. Avenue B, you're going to die. I mean, it's like early. And in the end, you die anyway. So just be honest with yourself. Be honest with the people that are closest to you. You know, you might be thoroughly fucking wrong, and you don't know it. Right?
Exactly.
All right, dude. You got anything to talk about next week?
I'll try to find something. I'm sure something in the news will pop up.
Join that
There's
social
always
media platform, and you and I'll troll people till we get kicked off.
Yeah, I'll try to share my interactions with
Okay.
you if I have any,
All right,
which I'm
cool.
sure I will.
All right, man. It's been a good one. See you next week.
Later, man.
Later. You have now experienced the Thoroughly Wrong Project with your podcast hosts, Lalo and Bob. We can now be found on Pandora Radio, Apple Podcasts, Podium Podcast, or by searching The Thoroughly Wrong Project to locate our YouTube channel. You can contact us directly by email at thoroughly-wrong@gmail.com, or just leave a comment on any of our platforms. Until next time, thanks for spending your valuable time with us, and remember, always speak up and never be afraid to be thoroughly wrong.